can say I did it, and I can show others that you can lead by example by putting something out there and then actually completing it.
If I'm not familiar with my own thoughts, then who's running the show?
Woo! Let's go.
Oh, you gotta watch it.
Get ready to get inspired. This is the Go for the Goldie podcast.
Happy St. Patrick's Day, everybody. It's Wednesday, March 17th, 2021, and today I'm joined by the only other two people that I know that were crazy enough to do the David Goggins 4x4x48 challenge earlier this month. John Osberg and Steve Prochnow, a.k.a. Yoga Steve. Gentlemen, welcome. How are you?
What's up, brother?
Well, Brian, thanks for having me.
Quite the intro. I know I surprised all of you.
Love that intro. Love the energy, baby. Love it. I got Johnny Osmosis, though.
Johnny, a.k.a. Johnny Osmosis. You know what? I butchered it. Good thing I can edit all this out, and then we can just start over.
Dude, no. Not at all. Not at all. It's all good, baby.
So how I like to start every one of these shows, I guess, Johnny O, we'll start with you, man. Let's have you introduce yourself. Obviously I have you on here because of the 4x4x48 finish, but tell us a little bit about yourself and, who you are.
Yeah, thanks again, Brian, for having us, man. It's a pleasure. I've been following your work and the things you're doing with your podcast and all the other energy you're putting out to the world. So start with gratitude first for having both Steve and I on, and, keep rocking it, man. You're inspiring a lot of people. But,
Thank you.
Yeah, John Osberg, a.k.a. Johnny Osmosis. I'm out here in Buffalo, New York, alongside Yoga Steve. I am what we'll call a solopreneur, community champion, and someone that really lives in the worlds of transformative type action, whether it's physically, mentally, emotionally, spiritually. Transformation is something that's happened in my life at the beginning of that. Wasn't aware of it, I should say, a couple years ago. But here I sit today as what I like to call an agent of transformation. So again, much gratitude for having us, and excited to unpack all these great things about our boy David Goggins and the 4x4x48 challenge.
I noticed that for those just listening, he's got the official shirt on, and
Yeah.
It's kind of like a Battle Axe type logo there. Here we go. We got everything go. Wow, what's that? There's a lot of words back there. What's that say?
But if you want to read it, I'll sit down or whatever. But it's his ethos, his
I love
creed.
it. And also,
So go Goggins.
everything you just talked about, I can't wait to unpack all of that too. So let's shelve that
Appreciate
for the
that.
moment, but let's get to Yoga Steve. Yoga Steve, introduce yourself, brother.
Thanks for having me. My background is I was a former Division I soccer player, and I got into traveling around the world doing volunteer work in my 20s, and then pivoted over to ultra endurance races and a former competitive triathlete. Which led me into teaching yoga locally in the States and also internationally in different countries. And locally in Buffalo, I've been fortunate enough to teach in multiple prisons with veterans with PTSD and substance abuse, corporations, hospitals, whether it's patients in hospitals or hospital staff, studios, and really anyone that will take a yoga class. I'm willing to kind of go and spread the yoga love. So, and someone that continues to, push myself physically and mentally in a healthy state and try my best to inspire others just by being an example.
And that's where, Yoga Steve came to be, huh?
Yeah.
Well,
Actually, the name from that came from years ago. I was at one of those American Ninja Warrior gyms.
Okay.
And there was two Steves in the class, and they put on the whiteboard like Steve S, and then they just labeled me Yoga Steve, and then people just started calling me that outside of the American Ninja Warrior gym. And then the more yoga I taught, they're like, oh, that's my friend Yoga Steve. And I guess you can't always pick your nicknames. And I was like, that's not bad. I'll just let it fly. And it stuck. So
It fits though. If like Yoga Brian doesn't work, Yoga Steve though, that just it flows. It sounds good.
Yeah.
I've been wondering the genesis of that. So thanks much, Yoga
There you
Steve,
go.
for unpacking that, brother. That's awesome.
And obviously, right off the bat, I mean, we got two super positive people here. Now, this is where the craziness starts to come in because, as someone who, an original Buffalonian, and, I've been living in Dallas for coming on 3 years now. Johnny, I obviously through Nick Martone, who was a guest previously on the podcast. That's how I came in
Shout
contact
out.
with you. Yeah, shout out to him. And Steve, I worked at a running shoe store, so I was kind of in like the fitness community, back in Buffalo, and obviously heard, about you and, November Project and everything like that. And, so I guess, side note real quick, my first question, Steve, for you is, if there was a version of The Bachelor for Buffalo, you would be the number one person on that show. So when are you going to get that rolling?
Well, I do have a girlfriend, and I feel very fortunate that I have been able to walk into a lot of spaces and people give me the platform to be able to share the things that I love to do, which I don't take for granted. And I'm very thankful that it's in a place that I grew up in too. It's kind of fun to leave for a while and come back and then give back in a different way. It's like I went to school for communications and business, and I'm doing that, but in a different way. And so what I'm doing right now couldn't have been scripted, but I get to help out people in a different way that I never thought was possible, but it was always the things that I love to do. So if that's the weird result of that puts me onto that one. I'm thankful that would possibly be the case. And though it's just something that I appreciate the fact that I get to be in rooms with people and they care enough that I can step in front of a room and they'll actually listen to me, which is a very kind thing.
I love that. We just broke a lot of girls' hearts by saying that you have a girlfriend. So. But anyway, moving on. But yeah, when I said it's worlds colliding because I came in contact with Johnny through Nick, and then Steve, obviously I've known about you for a while, just in being in that fitness and health community in Buffalo, and then when I saw you guys doing that challenge together, and I was doing it, and then I saw you guys doing it, I was like, oh my God, I got to get you guys on and talking about this this challenge amongst many other things we're going to cover too. But how did you guys come to meet, and how did you guys come to doing the challenge together? Because that's a tough 2 days.
Go for it, John.
Yeah, thanks. Well, ironically, Nick Martone gets brought back in, who's one of my all-time best pals. I've only known him for a little over a year, but I feel like I've known him for my whole life. Nick actually is a mutual of Yoga Steve as well. So they knew each other from their, Will South days? Was it Yoga Steve?
I grew up with Nick's brother. Nick's brother and I were good friends as growing up as kids.
So crazy there. Another link, small world.
That's Buffalo.
Universe.
That's Buffalo in a nutshell right there.
No doubt. Right. So, and then bringing it back to Nick, it was one day that, well, first of all, it was social media, right? Much like you, Brian, I had noticed, Yoga Steve, his incredible reach and positivity and gratitude and all the things that I really love and I attract to. And I remember I had following some of his content. So I had just been reaching out through different platforms, and he was kind enough to shoot back a couple notes here and there. Excuse me. So I had it in my mind to connect with him. So you talk about law of attraction, you talk about the universe, man. It's something I totally believe in and I preach every day. The universe reveals itself to me. And one of them was back in August 2020 with Yoga Steve. So, I wasn't thinking about him at the time, but I'm leaving a golf simulator place downtown. Nikki and I, of course, down there hitting balls. Like lunch hour. And if it weren't for having to go back in and then come back out, we would not have ran into Yoga Steve, who also lives in that same building. So I was with Nick and I'm like, wait a minute. I go, you're Yoga Steve. He goes, yeah. And I think maybe, Steve, you had recognized me maybe, but then you definitely recognized Nick. So it was just crazy. It was like Nick, Steve, and then, oh wait, John too. And so we all kind of mucked it up there briefly, and then we stayed in touch. And so Steve and I had connected then a couple other times, and again, kind of manifesting out some of the greatness that we were planning on unfolding for the community, right, for the betterment of everyone, service to others. So it was through that, and then I'll let Steve take over and talk about how 4x4x48 challenge came about.
Yeah, well, I will say that when John walked out and he has this electric energy, we just hit it off. I think I was had things that I had to go do. I'm walking out of my apartment, and when you meet people that you need to stop and talk to, I mean, we experienced that. You stop and talk to people that that you can feel those positive vibes from, and John was one of those people. So we chatted for a half an hour, I think, something along the lines of that.
It was.
Yeah, and when the 4x4 really came to play is I know that John was, putting that out into the world, and I was kind of dancing around with the idea. And then I did a little bit of a dry run a couple weeks beforehand because I thought I was going to do it. And I did something along the lines of that. And once I kind of got that, I was like, let's go for it. I texted John, and I'm sometimes a lone wolf, and I've really changed my ways on, not wanting to do things alone all the time. And I knew that John, watching his fitness and, him doing his marathon, that there's not many people where you can call and say, hey, you want to do this thing, and that they would have your back, and they would be at that same enthusiasm and same wantingness to do that. And so it just made the text of me saying let's go and John saying let's do this together, and then we just linked and just made the plan from there, and we were all in, and it just really worked out in a beautiful way together, just being on the same page the whole time. And I'm very thankful that we got to do it together.
I love that concept too of, there's not many people that, like you said, that, you could just shoot a text out about something crazy as this and no questions asked, I'm in. As I get older, I start to, I've really started to make it a focus of mine to, you're a conglomeration of, like your 5 closest friends, or, like you're just your atmosphere, and if you surround yourself with negativity or, people who are just going to be out for themselves, I mean, it manifests. And like you said, you come across certain people in your lives serendipitously. And I truly believe that's the point of this, podcast is someone listens to this and hears your story and, hears what you guys do and how you guys live your life, and hopefully that can inspire. If it's just one person who listens to this and it changes them, then we did it. That's really the point. So the 4x4
Well said, brother.
I appreciate it. Well, the 4x4x48 then. So for those who don't know, it's David Goggins challenge, and David Goggins, in a nutshell, is just one of the most intense, crazy, inspirational people out there. He's if you follow him on Instagram, basically daily, he's running around just yelling at you to get off your ass and move around. And he's actually originally from Buffalo, so that's what really, like, I heard him on the Rogan podcast. I'm a big Joe Rogan fan, and I heard him on the podcast, and then I found out that he's originally from Buffalo, and that even made it cooler. And then found out about that 4x4x48 challenge. But anyway, the challenge is 4 miles every 4 hours for 48 straight hours. So it winds up being 12 runs, 48 miles in 48 hours. And I guess the biggest challenge is the sleep. When the hell do you sleep? So let's I want to get started talking about the challenge first with you guys. So what was the planning like? Obviously, Steve, you sent the text to John. You're like, hey, let's do this. And what were the next steps? Where'd you guys go from there?
Yeah, I can go from here. I had a route that's right outside of my building. That's exactly 4 miles, and it's flat. It's in the city. It's lit. And I said, hey, like, I think of David Goggins. He's one of the, let me run a 1 mile track for 100 miles. And I'm thinking to myself, let's just do this. We'll do the same route every time. It's 4 miles. It's consistent. It's through the city, and let's go for it. And, John was like, let's go for it. So that was the start of the planning of just saying, okay, this route makes the most sense for us to be able to do this. And that's where the planning started. And then we kind of looked into, okay, well, what makes the most sense long-term? And John, you want to add anything from there?
Well, if I might just step back briefly, you talk about serendipity, even back, and I'm going back to the genesis of it all. Yoga Steve and I actually did a podcast on my podcast show. So it's fun being a feature here, Brian. Thanks again. But I had gotten all these remarks from the podcast that I had released with Yoga Steve about, some of the things that Steve talked about, which is congruent with our message here. It's additive. It's free fitness, be strong and be useful, win the morning, win the day, and all sorts of other great phrases. So I had gotten like the 10th person within a couple of days. So I reached out to Steve, maybe it was a day or two that had gone by. It was a Sunday. Maybe a couple weeks in advance of the challenge. And I just said, dude, I had to let you know, we love to give each other video messages, which is a really cool form. That's a takeaway for many of our listeners is, if you don't want to send a big long text, it really pays a lot, or it does a lot, does it well, I should say, where you can take a quick selfie video. So anyway, I sent one over to Steve. And I said, hey, dude, I just want to give you some love, man. I've been getting all sorts of great feedback from our pod. And that's what then kicked off the, hey, I know you've been putting out, this is Steve to me, putting out the 4x4x48. Are you in for this? I think I'm going to do it. And I know, Yoga Steve, you might mention something later in the podcast that it was also a spark that it had to do with David Goggins, but I'll table that. So to add to what you said, yeah, candidly, right, disrobing a little, it was a total agreement, but it was like, well, shoot, I'm going to have to figure out, now this is from me. I live in the town of Tonawanda, 20-ish minutes, 22 minutes from this exact point of meet with Steve there.
Shout out to the
So-
TOT, baby. That's where I'm from.
Right.
Kenmore
Let's
East.
Any
Let's
listeners,
go.
Tonawanda, let's go.
Woo!
Let's go. It's funny. My address is still Buffalo, though. So I lived in the city for many years. So I still feel like I might live in the city, but it's officially, but unofficially. So
Right.
anyway, I started road mapping what that would look like. And so I got to give a couple quick shout outs to folks like Rob Minicucci from Health System Services and Kevin Schmidley from KeyBank, who were kind enough to offer me lodging. Even Yoga Steve said, hey, I'll at least split it with you. Because I was thinking about doing a hotel downtown, thinking about, you mentioned, right, Brian, the 4 hours, you only have so much time.
Yep.
Say you run an 8-minute pace or up to a 10-minute pace. That's 32 to 40 minutes then out of that.
Every
that,
minute
you know,
counts.
out of that.
Every minute counts.
Right. It's something that one of our takeaways, and I'm sure we'll unpack later, was time, man. Time is truly, I already knew it, but it was so hyper-focused, intensified. So the point is, I ended up not going downtown. I wanted to have those funds actually directed towards my charity, which we can get into later, has to do with veterans. And so it ended up being that we did do the route, but we did modify. So I've talked enough here. So again, Steve had the route mapped out. We started with that. But then it started to evolve into, kind of like for us, it was 11 p.m. at night, Friday, March 5th was our first leg. So then, 11 o'clock we meet, we run the 4 miles. We did it in 33 minutes or something. And then it was go home. For me, it was a 25-minute ride or whatever. And then, get back up and go back downtown 3 a.m. So then after that 3 a.m., this is where I'll pass it to Steve, we started to shift a little bit on our route.
Yeah, and we just started to adapt and say, hey, what makes the most sense? And we went to Delaware Park, and then we did a couple laps there. And then even downtown, we started to switch our route up a little bit more as we started to notice what's also safe and also what will keep our minds sharp as we're running through. So we kept the same route most of the time, but we kind of tributary to different spots throughout the time. And made it creative. And I think that staying curious and creative during that run also helps the part of our minds to keep going.
Oh, for sure. And I was going to ask you, I know, Buffalo is pretty much as flat as Texas, but I mean, there's still spots where there's a little bit of an incline or whatever, like Delaware Park, for instance, that backside hill as you go parallel to the Skagit.
198.
Yeah. Did you take that into consideration at all when you were planning your routes?
I'll take a quick stab and even add that we did Forest Lawn as well, which was probably our hilliest course.
Mm-hmm.
And I think our elevation gain, not to get too technical, was a couple 100 feet over those 4 miles. But we did, but at the same time too, we were just focused on running our race and enjoying the time together. Steve and I, there's some really cool takeaways that Steve actually really helped, open my eyes to. Not all of the takeaways, but there were some that definitely weren't at top of mind for me. So I give my gratitude again to Steve there. But I can't help myself. I know we're here to talk about the 4x4x48, but the podcast for me wants to flip back to you, BG. You ran it too, man. And I want to flip to you and say, give us, your route. Give us what your thoughts were. This is a 3-way conversation. So you also completed it. So kudos. And again, I'm the host. I'm a host all the time usually. So can you offer some insights into your runs down in Texas there?
Yeah. Well, first of all, we're here to just hang out and talk. I talk to interesting people. So, like the title 4x4x48 finishers. I mean, yeah, we could talk about that, but I want to learn about you guys too because I feel like I got real big FOMO right now, guys. I wish I was in Buffalo to do this with you.
Hey, make the travel up, dude, and we'll do another one. We'll do it. Maybe we'll tweak it a little. We'll make it our own, right? Bruce Lee, take what's used with the scar. What's not. You need to make your
I
own.
want to do okay. So I want to unveil something on this, and I think you guys are you going to be into. But this literally I thought of like 2 days ago. But we're going to table that. But to answer your question about doing it down here, As you guys were doing it, I felt bad for you because down here the weather was perfect. It was like 60s and 70s at night. It was in the 50s. So it was like just perfect weather for me. And I saw you guys like running in the snow, and I was
In the teens.
yeah, that is you had it harder than me for sure. I'm in, Dallas weather is not, and aside from that crazy storm we had a month ago, which luckily that wasn't during this. But it was awesome because what I did is, Yoga Steve, earlier you mentioned you're a lone wolf. That's me too. And you were a triathlete, you said as well, and I'm a triathlete, and I am so busy with so many things. I don't like planning working out with other people because I just kind of, when I have time, I'm at it. You know what I mean? I know what I have to do that day, and I don't work out at the same time every day. I just have to get it in when I can, and I'm kind of, knee jerk. So I took advantage of this opportunity to, again, like you said, work out with other people and share and enjoy the experience with others. So I had like maybe, I don't know, 6 or 7 different friends swing by through the 48 hours and run different legs with me. So I had,
That's awesome.
it was so cool. It was so cool. I had like, my friends are coming over at 6 a.m. and running with me. There wasn't a single run. There was one run where I was by myself, but it was 6 a.m. on Sunday morning, so it's still light out. For the 2 a.m. ones, my fiance got in the car and followed me for the 4 miles because in my area, there's a lot of coyotes, so I'm not trying to get attacked by a coyote while I'm running around. So she brought, our dog in the car and just followed me to make sure that I was safe. And the cops here would see me running and they'd wave because they knew what I was doing. And it was really cool. It was definitely one of the proudest moments of my life to be able to finish that. And like you guys serve as an inspiration for others and kind of show others that you are definitely capable of doing things that you didn't think you were capable of doing. So this is definitely
40% rule, BG.
Yeah.
40% rule, brother, with God. And just kudos again, man. I also wanted to bring out that you did this for Courage of Carly, which is a charity, a fund that's near and dear to my heart, but that's for a future here shortly conversation. But yeah, I mean, dude, you did this, you crushed it. And I honestly just lost my train of thought as to what I was saying. I brought Courage of Carly out.
Well, I'll jump in because
I'm sorry, I interrupted
no, that's
you.
Okay. No, not at all.
I can't help myself.
The funny thing I was going to tell you, Steve, is, I am the exact opposite of you in terms of like planning and preparation. Like you said 2 weeks ago, you kind of did a little bit of a dry run kind of thing. And, you really were strategic and you had your 4-mile run mapped out and everything. The reason I did this 4x4x48 challenge is because I never heard of it about maybe like a month beforehand. Like up until a month beforehand, I'd never heard of it. And one of my friends texted me and he goes, "Yo, are you doing the 4x4x48?" And I'm like, "No, what's that?" And he goes, "Oh, it's this David Goggins thing." He goes, "You're the craziest person I know, so I figured you were going to be doing it." And I was just like, "Okay, I'll do it." Like, I didn't even know what it was, but like I knew it was something crazy, so I was like, "All right, I'll do it." And then that's how I got into it. So I just planned the day. I didn't plan any sleep. I didn't plan any nutrition or anything like that. I was just like, I'll figure it out as I go. And so it's funny that we have these different strategies, but we, here we sit. Now the thing I will say that kind of made me frustrated, not frustrated, but like, I don't know if you guys saw, because I like following other people on Twitter or Facebook. You search the hashtag and see other people doing it. The point of it is to do it at the same time. Like you guys started at 11 on Friday. I started at 10 on Friday because I'm an hour behind you. He started at 8 on the West Coast. Like people are like, "Yeah, I'm going to start it on Saturday morning." I'm like, that's not the point. Like the point is to do it at the same time. Did that frustrate you guys seeing that? Because I'm like, yeah, you're still doing it, but like not really, right?
Go ahead, Steve.
I was just say that it's unfortunately, it's just the world we live in. You know what I mean? And yeah, I saw some people that, I know one of the co-leaders from November Project who co-founded Atlanta. He lives up in Edmonton. And I think he was probably about 8 hours ahead of us because he had to work Monday morning. And he's like, "Look, man, I got to work Monday morning. So if I can get 8 hours to finish it earlier, I'm going to do it." And I saw some people in Florida. And yeah, you can I know for myself, I can only speak from my eye, that get some FOMO. I get some FOMO of just like, wow, they're 2 laps ahead of me. You know what I mean? Like, and there's unknown with what we're doing of like, I don't know how I'm going to feel 8 miles from now and 2 more rounds and they're done. So it was a good mind thing for myself to say, okay, Steve, just be present with what I'm doing. And that's what they chose to do. And that's it. I can't change that. And I never even would have thought of doing it that way, but I guess everybody's circumstances are different and we don't know their story. So I guess I can't really fault them that much for it, but I'm with you. Trust me. When you say it starts at this, I'm starting then.
It's funny. I think you're right. Exactly like what you just said. Because I saw someone on like leg 10 and I was on like the 5th one. I'm like, oh my God, that seems like so far away.
Well, I think Goggins I think he likes it that way too, right? So he talks about calcing the mind, armoring your mind. So he's probably glad that there was some of that happening. He probably knew that would factor in, even like on the flip side, right? So being the one that's doing it in advance, where you're the first one, you're the pioneer, you're the one that's going out there, right, in a different time zone where no one else has gone yet. Now you're 3 or 4 legs in, and these guys are just starting. You're dogging it, you're feeling it. So it's like both ways, but I think at the same time, it was a byproduct of, Goggins' evil concoction and arrangement, right? Where again, the 40% rule, right? And what is that to our listeners? The 40% rule is when you have gotten to what you perceive to be 100%, you're probably just at 40%. So therefore, push further past that, right? Be mindful of that 40% rule. So yeah, I think that was part of the design. He was excited probably by that. He may not have said it, but seeing that for sure, like like you both have commented on, it definitely was a bit daunting to see people. I remember, Yoga Steve even, we're out on Sunday morning doing our 7 a.m. and we FaceTime really briefly with your buddy from Edmonton. And he was like done or about to be done. And we're like, we still got 11, 3, and 7 to go. So, but again, it all goes back to that mental fitness, that mental muscle. So I loved it.
So you guys finished in the dark then, huh? If you finished at 7
right.
on Sunday?
Yeah, 7:40ish, 7:35. Yeah.
Wow.
In the dark.
Yeah, I finished in the light, which was nice. It was.
Yeah, I saw that compilation video, man. I mean, again, great support for you. Awesome to see your friends, your family, your supporters out there. That's what it's all about, man. It's that journey together.
Well, and shout out to Del Reed too from 26 Shirts. Like he sent me all those shirts, and that was freaking awesome too, man. He was really excited about it, and he retweeted that video too, so that made me feel pretty cool that
He's got a
he
good
enjoyed
following.
it. Yeah.
No, Del, he's one of the best. Yeah.
He is. Shoot, now I lost my train of thought. Oh, I was going to ask you, what do you guys, in your opinion, looking back on it now, what was your guys' hardest leg of the 2 days? Which one did you struggle with the most?
Go for it, John.
I just, really quickly, day one, like just that unknown. I had not really done any sleep stuff before, right? Sleep deprivation, where for me it was a little different too because of that commute and just high energy. But, I just remember finishing that first leg, getting home, being like, this is crazy. I love it. I'm embracing it. But it's like, it's your first try at it. So it's like, now I got to get myself together. I didn't have a routine yet. As I started to work through each leg, I got more efficient and smarter, which was really cool to see, again, with that every minute counts mentality. But I'd say day one for sure, man, it was a grind. And I think the zenith of the difficulty for me, Brian, was, like I'd say the 11 o'clock on day two or day one, right? Technically for us. So Saturday night at 11 p.m. Eastern, that was tough. And then the worst one though, out of all of them was the 3 a.m., that following Sunday morning. But then 7, even like, I guess day 2 in general was fine, but day 1 for sure, to answer your question in short. Steve?
It was the 3 a.m. in the second day. We switched up our route so much that we actually ran 1 mile out, 1 mile back, 1 mile out, 1 mile back for safety and just for a little bit of consistency of if we had to walk a little bit that time. So I think that would have been the most challenging one for us overall. And it also was just impactful to have that time.
Yeah, that leg I think was the hardest for me too. For me, it was 2 a.m., but that Sunday morning. That was, I woke up, I don't know if you guys experienced this, but I did. I was so worried about missing a leg that every time I fell asleep, I'd wake up in a panic. I'd be like, oh, I missed it. And my fiance's like, you did not. Calm down. You're good.
Fight or flight, man.
Yeah.
You're in that, you're in that kind of a stress mode, which, then definitely, again, Goggins and his savagery, this is what he was looking for.
Well, I told you I didn't really plan too much. I made like a loose kind of like guide. But as this went on, things changed. Like you had your route, changing, and so did I. But right off the bat, I mean, like you mentioned, John, my first one was 10 o'clock here, and I was like, I'm gonna stay up late on Thursday, so I'm tired. Like, not tired, but I'm gonna be ready to go to bed. So I'll run my first leg at 10, and then I'll get like an hour or two of sleep when I come back. And my adrenaline was pumping, and I came back, at like 10:30, 10:35, whatever I got done, and my adrenaline was pumping. And I'm like, damn it, I can't sleep. And then immediately it was just, trying to figure it out from there.
And Brian, what was your go-to when it came to running? Were you running at a certain pace? Were you running and walking? Did you have a plan with that, or did you just go on feel?
I wanted to. I went on feel. Usually my baseline, like anywhere between 7:30 and 8, is just just cruising. Not pushing it. Just a real good. That talk test, right? Like I'm sure any runner knows. Like if I could talk, or carry on a conversation, sometimes with myself, that was kind of like what I was looking at, and except the last one, I not cranked
burned
it, but I did 6:58 per mile for the last one because I was like, I went to go put my headphones on and they were dead, and my fiance was live streaming it, and I'm like, all right, I got to put on a show. Here we go. Let's just get this over with.
Kudos, baby.
How about you guys? What did you guys have a plan in terms of like the pace or?
If I could interrupt too, I don't want to screw this up, and maybe you can edit this, but I got a prompt for Zoom that says we're going to be shutting it down here in like a couple minutes because of the 40 minutes. I don't know if I got the wrong prompt or whatever, but I just want to throw that out there just in case. I think we're live, you said, Brian, and I apologize.
No, that's
It's
fine.
the virtual world we live in, brother. I've been dealing with this too with my podcast.
No, I want people to know that this is real. This is legit conversations, and stuff goes south.
Yeah. I don't know if you saw that, but I just wanted to throw it out there before we answered that question. Sorry.
I don't have it on mine. Do you?
Okay, good. I hit a prompt, but now it's like gone. I don't know what happened, but apologies. Hey, it's part of the world we're still living in.
That's right. If we lose you, we can just hop back on. Not a problem.
Throw
Right?
it back in.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I have an intermission screen I can pop up and we can figure it out. So.
Yeah, good. Well, to answer that, sorry again. To go back to that, I'll let Steve really weigh in on this because this is a fun moment for the two of us. I see he knows where I'm going with this, but
I don't fully know, but you go for it.
Well, Brian asked about pace. So the minute pace comes up, it's something that I learned from Yoga Steve, right? We had a goal. Just go ahead, Steve. Go ahead.
Yeah, something for myself is I don't really measure a lot. I don't look at mile paces. I don't really look at distance. It's not something that I really do anymore. And John, we're opposites on that, and it's fine. I mean, that's what makes it.
Not all the way though. Not all the way opposites. It's not.
What I'm saying on, just the way that we kind of navigate that, but we came together and met in the middle of how to do this together, and it was nice because also that helps push me because I'm one of those people that will just kind of go out and see what happens, and John. Thankfully, like having him to keep the accountability of, because we switched up our routes. He's helping measure it, and we're keeping pace and things like that. So that was also really helpful in our runs of staying out there. And I will say that I'll take accountability. Probably about halfway through, I started to develop a little bit of knee pain, and so we switched up kind of what we were doing, and I started to go into jogging for 45 seconds and then walking for 10 seconds. And we probably did that for 20 miles, but we still kept a good pace. Mm-hmm. It's just, that's what was needed in that point. And John was like, all right, let's go for it. And so we just, the plan, it's like the Mike Tyson quote of everyone's got a plan till you get punched in the face.
Yep.
And, like that's what happens when you're doing ultra distance races. You have a plan and then you have to execute on what's happening in real time, and so we just adapted into that, and it worked out perfectly.
I love that. And I actually, to answer your question too, when I ran by myself, the one or two times I did, like the 2 a.m. ones I ran by myself, one of the 6 a.m. ones, and the last one, I have a tendency to push myself. Like I'm always just in like fight or flight mode. That's just how I am. Like I'm always just. The best thing in the world for me would to not wear a watch, so I have no idea how fast I'm running. Because if I look down and see a number, I'm like, that's too slow, but it's arbitrary. So for me, I really like the idea of running with other people because I would go at their pace. And the concept of this event isn't to race; it's just to do it. The challenge lies in the sleep, and the consistency of every 4 hours. So it doesn't matter how long it takes you to do those. And I embrace that, by doing it with other people. Like I did with my fiance. She's not really a runner, and we did, like a 12:30 pace with her, and then that last one I did 6:58, and then everything in between with all my other friends. So it was cool to, I would just kind of let them lead the way, and I would, it takes your mind off of the exhaustion, the monotony of doing the same, seeing the same scenery and all that kind of stuff.
Well said there, and I'll just tack in that I did learn from Steve, and even you too, Brad. I saw you were posting some of your times, and it's something to behold when you can get caught up in those numbers, right? Mm-hmm. It's almost like, it's not that it's transactional, but it's like when you talk to a person that is like a true give first type person, like they're a community builder, and then you meet those salesy transactional people. It's kind of like that, and at least in the way it works in my mind, where it's like, for me, it's like I look at a number on my Garmin here, which I switched off from Apple Watch, which has helped. But even still, I'm still working on my relationship with data and numbers. Even like the Whoop, quick sidebar, my Whoop data during that weekend, man, was stupid. It was 1% and 9% recovery. But anyway, the point is, it was awesome to learn from the master himself, Steve, and even too from you, Brian, from afar, following your legs and your journey. I did see that. I had that in the top of my head about the 12.5 to the 650 something and everything in between. It's who's with you. And like Steve said, adjusting in real time. And that's how we got to do things in life. Right now we're still in pivot mode in all realms, and with COVID and with the economy and everything else. So there's some really cool kind of parallels here to what we're all going through, all the listeners, the millions of listeners.
So millions, billions, possibly. So I'm going to pivot here, and I'm going to ask you another question, because I certainly learned some things that I will not do next year. I'll wait to tell you mine. I'd like to hear, what did you guys learn from doing this that you won't do, or anyone listening that wants to do this next year that you would say definitely don't do that?
Steve, you want to start?
No, you go for it, because I'm not actually quite sure. I haven't thought of this question. I'm trying to ponder what I think I wouldn't do.
Masterful podcast interview we got here.
Boom.
It's interesting. Yeah, I think for those that go next year, right, that do the third annual, that Goggins will put out, it goes back to just kind of getting into a routine. I think the dry run concept that Steve had mentioned was great. Even just doing like a couple miles every like 4 or 5, 6 hours, whatever, just for feel, because the nutrition piece is key. Hydration. It's funny. I actually thought I was overhydrated. I'm such a water fiend, and electrolytes, right? And having Pedialyte and other stuff in the fridge, Body Armor, but I think there were a couple legs where I had eaten some interesting things. I kept it pretty clean, pretty tight, but there were just a couple instances where I might have had too much liquid in me, maybe too acidic, the food that I had chosen. And I won't get too detailed, but I would say just getting ready to get like like Yoga Steve said, the Mike Tyson thing, right? You basically get punched in the mouth after like those first 2 legs. It's like, holy crap, especially for us when it was cold up here. Say on the other side of it was really hot, that would play a factor too. Mm-hmm. But I would just say kind of get that dry run in. But for me, it was the nutrition piece and just getting adjusted to like not really sleeping at all because of my commute and my energy. Steve?
Yeah, I'll say, honestly, I wouldn't change anything when it came to doing the challenge. I feel like I gave my best, and I don't think that I would say, hey, this is where I messed up. What I would probably do different is beforehand, and if it's not in COVID, is just enroll more people locally to do it and figure out ways to have the runs cross between other people and bring more people to do this, or maybe have a group beforehand and give a little bit tutorial on how to do this. If you haven't done anything like this, and then raise more money for charity, I'd probably start there. And then the execution, like that's going to happen. I've done ultra races before. And so I feel like I've got a good grip on how my body works and, what to fuel myself on. And also what I feel, I kind of do this thing where I I'll give my body a couple once overs before, like a week or so beforehand, and be like, what do we got? And then I'm like, and I'll have like a thing in my mind of like, okay, this is where I think we're at. So this is a little bit smart on how we're going to do this race. And that's just all the way that I've always done it. And then I have, I feel it's almost an unfair advantage to do an ultra marathon or ultra distance race at home because you have all the comforts of home. I mean, I've done the tent thing. I've done the van thing. I mean, that's really tough, but having the stuff at home, I mean, that's like an unfair advantage. So you can really set yourself up. So what my advice would be is that really have that cave or nutrition stuff that your body craves. Test some things out beforehand, know what works, and you'll be set up for success. So maybe beforehand, just having something like this for people to say, hey, it's a couple weeks out. If you're thinking about doing this, listen to this podcast. We're going to give some tools and tips that may be helpful for you beforehand, and really enrolling more people, not just people that think that, they're amazing triathletes or amazing runners, that this is possible, could be possible for anybody. And how can we inspire more people to do it?
No, I love that. And you made a couple really cool points there. I mean, I love that idea of like crossing paths, next year, hopefully when we're in the clear and back to whatever normal is, moving forward, that'd be cool to like generate that where, maybe Delaware Park, is a place where there's a central point where people are crossing paths or whatever. And, or make, more people, and I feel like we're kind of trailblazers in this. It's only been around this was the second year, and you guys are literally you're a triathlete, Steve, or former triathlete, endurance runner, and
I need to throw down. I think I could still do it, but I finally sold my tri bike, but I have a road bike that could morph into a tri bike.
I wish I would have known that. I would have bought that damn tri bike. I have a road bike that I picked up off Facebook Marketplace. Darn it.
Yeah, something tells me I think you'd be able to do a triathlon. I'm just gonna, if I was a betting man, I would bet on you all day, man.
I appreciate it, but in all sincerity, to just quickly hit that, I know we were on something else, but like this has been actually after doing my first marathon, which I know Yoga Steve mentioned about and whatever. It's actually something I see in the back of you there, BG, with the swim bike run. Definitely need some work with swimming, but I got some resources, some friends that are helping me a little bit. I got to get more serious there, but that is something I want to start doing. So I'll be picking your brain and both of your brains, come the next, several months and whatever years to come, because it's something that I'm fascinated by.
Oh, please do, man. Real quick, I've told this story, I think, on every one of these podcasts, but I'm just going to tell it real quick again because I don't care. Do it. So when I lived in Buffalo, I played football. I was telling Steve before. That's how I met Nick, was through football. We played for the Gladiators and the Lightning together. And I was getting older, I was like 28, 29, and I was like, I can't just, football is just taking such a toll on my body. And I don't know if you guys can tell, but I'm a little guy. I'm only 5'7", and I was like 180 pounds at the time, playing receiver. And I wanted to get into something different. So the corporate challenge in Buffalo, you guys are both aware of that, I'm sure. That was my first race I ever did, and it was through my job, and I had no interest in I consider that endurance. Like 3.5 miles was, climbing Mount Everest or, scuba diving into the Marianas Trench.
That final turn.
Yeah.
That final turn. They throw you the loop. You don't go back into the park.
Yep, exactly. And I'm like, oh my God, what is this? So and it's up, you go under the bridge, so it's a little bit of an uphill too. And after, it's at mile 3, and I'm like, this is for the birds, but I finished, and, I'm a competitive guy. I've been an athlete my whole life, so I wanted to get into triathlon. So, I started doing like Buffalo. Now that I live in Dallas, I realize how special the running community is in Buffalo. I mean, it's crazy how many races there are and how strong the community is there. And I think I think Buffalo's, the perfect size where it's small enough to be like that, but it's big enough to kind of explore different parts of the city that you maybe don't spend too much time in. Like being from the town of Tonawanda, I never went to the South Towns ever. Like I never had a reason to go down there, but like there's races there all the time. So I was, exploring new parts of my own city that I didn't even know really existed. But I started doing the 5Ks, and then I'm a big video game guy too. So I was playing Grand Theft Auto 5, and in that you can do a triathlon. I'm not exaggerating. It literally in like real time takes like a half hour to do the triathlon in Grand Theft Auto. So you're just smashing the X button, swimming in a lake, just watching your guy swim. And I'm thinking to myself, I'm like, I was the captain of my swim team in high school at Ken East, and I was just getting into running, and I was getting, as the curve, it levels off after a period of time. But at the beginning, you're getting better and better by like quantum leaps, and so I was really excited about that. And I'm like, anybody can ride a bike, right? I can figure that out. So I asked my dad to buy me a bike, and he bought me a bike. And it was actually like right around this moment because I ran the Shamrock Run, and then I went to Bert's Bikes on the Boulevard. I met him there, and he bought me a bike. Well, we had an agreement I was going to pay him back because I didn't have like the $1,500 to just drop on a bike, and I'm like, I'll just pay you back, like $100-$200 a month or whatever. Well, within May 13th of that year, so 2 months afterwards, he passed away, and he never got to see me do a race or anything. So then that bike became the world to me, and my first triathlon was the ECC one. It doesn't exist anymore, but it was the Cats, I think it was called. Yeah. And that was my first one, and I came in second in my age group, and I was like, oh, that's pretty cool, and I guess, with the minimal training that I had, I'm like, wow, that was cool. And then started learning about national championships and stuff like that, and fast forward to now, and I've been able to go all over the world for Team USA at the age group level, competing for Team USA. And like I proposed to my fiance in Switzerland last year at the World Championships, and it goes back to like what you said, John, earlier. It's and you too, Steve, and the transformative mindset, and you're doing things now, Steve, that you said, you didn't plan on it, but you're taking skills that you've learned earlier in life and applying them to new endeavors as you get older, and it's that growth mindset. I think is what it really boils down to. It's I've come so far down the path as I get older, and I'm still not old. I'm 34, but I feel like I've just left so many people, not behind, but like I just can't be in the same headspace as someone who just, goes to a job they don't like all day and then goes home and watches TV. It's like that, to me, that just seems like such a depressing way to live. And I'm just seeking out more and more people that have that drive to succeed and challenge themselves and do more things, and that 40% thing like you were talking about. So that's really where this all, comes together. But I forgot where I was going. I went off on a tangent, but
well, if I could just interject, I want to just reflect here. So I'm sure your father watching down, whatever it is that you believe in, is proud of you. I'm proud to be minting you as a new pal, a growth mindset warrior, legend, whatever you want to call it. Ironically, I had that book on my desk, but it's up in my nightstand now. I've been rereading it, but what's crazy? Like it's cool because it's a poignant moment for me in this conversation with you fellows. Because I remember when I first started really, getting to know Steve a bit better here, Yoga Steve, that I remember candidly, authentically here, disrobing. I was just like, man, I need to be around that dude more. Like he gets it. He's in the same headspace as you mentioned, Brian. And then there's not a lot of that. There's so many motivational for our listeners and watchers. There's so many motivational videos that involve Goggins and about how you can get to that point in life where you start to find true greatness. And it's kind of like borderline obsession. If you really want to be great at whatever it is that you love and you're passionate about, you have to be obsessed. And when you get to that point, most people don't understand it, because they're not there yet. And so those that are there, which is few and far between, it seems like, I don't want to generalize, but it seems like folks like ourselves, these obsessants, these passionate people about gratitude and the mind, body, spirit connection. It's just awesome to be sharing this with you guys, because what you just outlined, Brian, there at the tail end of your discussion or your soliloquy is exactly the things that I thought about with you after seeing more about your media and what you did with the 4x4x48 and your background with Team USA, and same for Steve. So full circle moment for me. I just wanted to reflect on that briefly. Really cool. And kudos again for all the things you're doing and, about your dad and all that. That's touching.
Dude, you're very well spoken. I sound like a caveman when I talk compared to you, man.
No.
It's very impressive.
Not at all. You're a self-deprecating, humble man. I feel that way with Yoga Steve, man. Yoga Steve can string together some words, man, that you're just like, man, that dude is deep. That dude is layered. He gets it. He's got the Matrix shit going on right there. He's just like, dude, like that's something I want to unpack, actually. Back to the 4x4x48. I'm not going to name names, but I was introducing all these different variables because I'm a sharer. I'm a high energy guy. You're starting to see it come out now. I've been pretty chill here because I try to be a chameleon, if you will, when I'm around like Steve. But it's a good thing. It's rooted in focus and chasing clarity. But anyway, I was introducing all these different, like, this person's gonna join and this happening and this and that. And I'll just tell you, like, I remember the last thing I introduced, which was the last thing, and then I was done. Everything else was cut out. But it was, the way that Yoga Steve like was able to just say, well, okay, hold on, let's stew on that. And he's like, and he's just road mapping in his mind, using visualization, using the power of his mind, of mindfulness, to say like, well, and then he had all these follow-up questions. Do you know this? Do you trust this? Can you vouch for this? What about that? What if this happens? And I'm just like, man, I thought I was getting in the Matrix with becoming my own version of the one, like Neo in the Matrix. I was like, this dude, Yoga Steve, is actually Neo from the Matrix, because I was like, he's like I was like 4 steps ahead of it. He was like 10. And I'm like, damn. So anyway, end rant.
Well, Steve, I don't participate in yoga, but
I need to.
I would love to as well. And I just, from an outsider's perspective, I know, obviously, like, your mentality and, just your consciousness and being present is, a big part of it. And, with what John just said about you, I mean, like, being purposeful or, about your intentions, I think not only in your day-to-day, but in your life, that's had a big impact too with me. I'm reading this book, Your Money or Your Life, right now. And it's a super interesting book. One of my friends introduced it to me, who lives a crazy, interesting life. And he's actually moving down here tomorrow, which is a game changer for me. Yeah, very exciting stuff. But anyway, the question that they ask in the book is, they say, if you didn't have to work, for the next year, how would you spend your days? And if you can't answer that, there's an issue there. You haven't found your passion yet. And there's something about the human condition that we definitely need to, if you're not pursuing anything or there's no goals, I mean, what are you doing? And I think that's where you see a lot of the anger and manifestation, that you're seeing in the world today. It's sad. It's a lot of it's distractions. You know what I mean? TV's a distraction. Entertainment's a distraction. And, I think most people's lives are not most, but a lot of people's lives are distractions nowadays. And I don't know, Steve, did I miss the mark completely on that, or what? Be honest.
What is the question that you're asking?
I guess is
see that layered stuff right there.
Yeah. In terms of yeah, that's right. In terms of like yoga, how has that changed your life in terms of mindset? With obviously yoga is a discipline, but obviously that bleeds over to your day to day and your year to year, attitudes and your participation in life, I guess, if you want to call it, right?
Yeah, so what I will say is the difference between, the triathlete stuff, the sports stuff, and yoga, you're in a pose and it gets really challenging and you got nowhere to go. When you're running, you can run, you can keep running, you can move through the pain, you're watching yourself actually physically move forward. When you're in a yoga pose, you have nowhere to go and you're just with yourself. And maybe the room is silent, and maybe, I know for myself, I was next to people that I didn't think looked physically stronger than me, and they're crushing the class. And here I am, an accomplished athlete, an accomplished triathlete, and I'm struggling in these poses, and I have to sit there in it with nowhere to go. And that's where, for myself, the mind takes over, is what are you going to do now? Mm-hmm. And so Viktor Frankl has that quote, between stimulus and response, there is a space. In that space is the growth. That's everything. Mindfulness is to become familiar with my thoughts. If I'm not familiar with my own thoughts, then who's running the show? Social media, TV, marketing, they're running the program. But if I can see, if my thoughts, because there's 2 sets of thoughts that I choose to come in, and then there's other thoughts that are going to come in that I have no control over, because that's the way that the world works. But if I can look at them like apps, where I'm like, I'm going to close that thought, I'm going to close that thought, I'm going to keep this thought. I then have my own mainframe, my own screen, and what we call in yoga is drishti, a focused gaze. Think about a basketball player in the NCAA and everybody's waving the things behind and he's focused on the net. That's what that is. The same thing with a field goal kicker, trying to get them off of their game. In yoga, what we do is focus on one point, control what you can control. Well, take the time to help control my mind or one's mind in that. So the same thing of running, okay, these thoughts, these doubts, they can come in, but I'm bringing those in and I'm going to say, okay, not now. I'm going to focus on John's next to me. We're outside, we're breathing, we're doing this for charity. These things are happening, and one foot in front of the other. And then also that we're getting to connect with other people. So being optimistic about those things, and then also appreciating, when I'm doing something that's really challenging, time usually slows down. It doesn't actually speed up. And so then I'm sitting in that pocket of the moment and saying, wow, I actually wouldn't rather be anywhere else. And that's what you were saying, Brian, about purposeful. If you think about the blue zones, the people that live the longest, the Okinawans, they have the word ikigai. That's their life purposes. Most of the people that live the longest, they don't always necessarily eat the healthiest, but they have the greatest mindsets. They wake up with purpose. They're purposeful in the things that they do for whatever that is for them. I mean, some of these people, it's just their day-to-day things or the social connections, whatever that is for them, they wake up with some sort of purpose. And if our purpose can be getting outside and doing things that challenge ourselves, I also want to just go back to something that you were talking about earlier. Is it's really important to see people that say they're going to do something and then they do it. In the world that we live in, I see a lot of people will say something and maybe they don't follow through in it. And if you can have people that in your life, when they say, it's the 4 agreements, be impeccable with your word. You are impeccable with your word. If you say you're going to do this challenge, you do that challenge. Man, I want to be around people like that I know that when they say they're going to do something and they say they're going to be somewhere, that I can count on them. We call it count-onable. It's a made-up word, but I know that I can count on John now that we did this together. There's a bond there. We're just meeting today, but like I know we're talking to you that I can count on you, and that to me it's kind of what we're here for, right? The human interaction of we can count on one another during these times, especially. Like I want to have people that I can count on, and these challenges can bring out. And blessed are we that we have the opportunity to do these challenges. And it helps us sort through the people in life that we know we can count on. And that's where these bounds, like Rich Roll always talks about, water rises to its own level. Well, we're rising up to our own levels here of getting to a place of mutual friends. And, now you can call us and be like, hey, we're going to do this race. You want to come join? Maybe we can, maybe we can't. But now there's these other opportunities to elevate one another and keep raising each other up in that glass of water.
So I think, incredible stuff what you just said right there. I agree with every second of what you just said. And mentality, I don't think too many people take a hard, my dog is staring at me and barking. Nice. Maybe he doesn't agree with me. I don't know. He's kind of a jerk. So. Not in a good headspace. He's not in a good headspace. I really do think that not enough people, like the space between, like you were saying, it's, if you want to get better just as a person, whether it be in music or video games or whatever you want to do, if you're trying to have a goal, the first step is taking a hard intrinsic look at yourself and identifying your strengths and weaknesses and where opportunities are to get better. And it's a painful process for sure to do that, but it's going to pay out dividends at the end of the day. I hate when people say that. I can't believe I just said that. As you progress through life, it's only going to have benefits. You can't shy away from things that you're not good at, or if you have a goal and you just want to disregard. Like you said, Steve, if someone says they're going to do something and then they don't do it, like I could have posted, yeah, I'm all in on the 4x4x48 challenge, and then I don't do it. Well, there's no ramifications per se,
Nobody would know. You could even say you did it, and nobody would know, but you would know.
Exactly, and that's who you have to live with.
Well, and if I could be additive to that, Brian, you just picked up on something. There's 2 things I wanted to pull out of the things that both of you have been saying. This one here more so is weaponizing your platforms and your message to keep yourself accountable, right? So we talked earlier about inspirational people, being inspired, headspace, people, kind of feeding off each other. There's no better way than to actually, and I get like, Steve jokingly, but kind of seriously too. Like you could say you're going to do it. You take the pictures, you post it. And if you really want to go through the troubles of that, then you have this person would have a serious problem. They would need to do some serious introspection if they want to do that and fake us all out. But in all sincerity, part of my transformation, and I think part of so many other transformations, is putting that story out there and saying, because, the first thing you think is, as you start to maybe lose a couple pounds, you run a couple miles, is no one cares about my story. Who cares? Like, it's whatever. But then you maybe get that final, spark to say, all right, fine, I'll start sharing some of this stuff so that people can follow my journey. And dude, I'm telling you, man, even on a daily basis, people that reach out, because I post a lot of this stuff, and I know you both do as well. I can only imagine how many messages you guys get, but again, it goes back to get inspired. Inspired. Sorry, let me step back. Be inspired to inspire, whatever that is. Inspire to be inspired, right? It's that full circle moment. So what I was just saying is, per what you were saying, is, put it out there, put your story out there. You're going to go do this. And then that way, if you got any friends that really are worth a damn or care, they're going to reach out. Hey, how was that challenge? Mm-hmm. And so in the moments of your struggle, you now can go back to, well, I said this and I committed this, and I have to now feel the pain, or I should say, endure the pain, and get to that completion point, so that I can say I did it, and I can show others that you can lead by example by putting something out there and then actually completing it. The one other quick thing I wanted to mention is a quick use case for Yoga Steve. January of this year, I came out of a pretty cool 2020, ran a marathon in 3:15, first ever, whatever. And my January was tough. I was stressed from some of my new job stuff and new clients. And I remember confiding in Yoga Steve after the podcast we did. It was like the day after. I was like, man, I'm really struggling. My data doesn't look good. I know, I go, Yoga Steve, you're not a data guy, but man, my Whoop data is red, yellow, red, and something's wrong. Something's wrong here. And he was kind enough to spend 60 minutes with me. He started with discovery questions, and then he walked me through exercise. And so the takeaway for our watchers and listeners is harness the power of your breath. Even though I've never done full yoga, and that's a whole nother conversation. I think we should come up, maybe you, Brian and I, we should come up with like a yoga for dudes, because I consider myself a fit guy. I consider myself mindful, but I still have yet to have the courage. And I think I'm a courageous person too. I have yet to have the courage to actually go to a yoga class, to go with Yoga Steve. Because it's like, I don't get it. Like all these phrases and all these things. I've been a part of some of Yoga Steve's community chats, and I'm like, I just don't know what's going on here. Like, I don't know where to start.
It's definitely intimidating.
Yeah. And so it's like, maybe that's a concept, but to go back to my original point, and then I'll hand the play off to someone else. Yoga Steve sat there with me and really highlighted the importance of minding our breath and shutting screens down and letting your feet touch the floor and feeling the muscles in your face and your eyes. And I swear to God, I swear to anyone watching, listening to this, of course you get the tip, the guide will lead you to the water. Now it's your turn to drink out of it to stay hydrated. He brought me to the water with breathing and taught me how to breathe and why it's important, and gave me some tips and some tricks and this and that. And then obviously as the student, I had to apply it. And I'm telling you, man, within a couple days, I started just seeing, it was like I felt like I was becoming the one, like actually by harnessing breath, by harnessing that mindfulness, by shutting everything down. Literally, I have the minute I wake up, I breathe. Middle of the day, bar none, I breathe. And then before I go to bed, I breathe. And it's like anywhere from sometimes 5 upwards of 15 minutes. Sometimes I do guided, sometimes it's on my own. I do stretching, and I just get really just chill. And I'm telling you, it will change your life, because you don't want to be reactive, as Yoga Steve said, and Brian yourself, and this is where I'll actually finish. It's the road rage example. Am I that mentally weak where I am as reactive as someone kind of got close to me and I got to get up on their butt and middle finger and honk? No, it's like a bad thought comes in. It's like someone cuts you off. You let them just pass right on by. You take compassion out of your body and you use it for that person. Maybe there's something wrong there. Maybe they got fired. They're having a bad day. There's someone sick in the car, and you let them carry on, because you are in yourself. You are so secure and stable that you do not have to be reactive to someone's stupidity. And maybe it wasn't even stupidity. Maybe they were actually struggling. So again, power of the breath, please. That's the only thing I'd want anyone that's heard all these words from me to take away from this chat.
I love that.
Man,
you were on fire, man. That's way to go.
Can't
I love
help
it.
I get, well, again, it's a testament to this man here in the bottom tile, Yoga Steve, for what he did to open my eyes and enlighten me on the power of the breath.
Well, you're in the bottom tile on mine, so that
perfect. Whatever it is, baby.
But okay, so 2 things. One.
Sorry.
No. You triggered my memory here. So you were talking
good.
about earlier that you guys video chat each other sometimes instead of like texting.
Yeah.
It's funny
Yeah,
you
yeah.
say that because I met a guy down here in Dallas. He's become one of my best friends. He
Shout him out. Shout him out.
His name's Danny Palma. So, and he's going to be a big part of the conversation moving forward here because I want to present the idea that I have to you guys that I'm not going to pressure you into being a part of, but if you wanted to, it'd be really cool. I think we could make it a really cool, fun event for charity. But Danny, so in high school, he wasn't really like the best baseball player, but he was determined to get to college, and he wound up just basically grinding his ass off, going as hard as he can with baseball, wrote letters all over the country, and Hofstra gave him a shot. So he went to Hofstra, and this is no exaggeration, his senior season, he was one batting point average away from leading the nation at the end of the year in batting average. He came in second place for best batting average in the country. And
Wow.
yeah, and he got drafted by the Diamondbacks and, played minor league ball. So obviously, like crazy strong kind of mindset, and just happened to meet him at the pool at our apartment complex over the summer. And obviously, we started talking about just it was like lightning in a bottle, right? Like you two meeting, it was just like, oh, we gotta hang out more. Like we definitely gonna push each other, and the rest is history. So he's the one that ran one of the legs with me. So to go back to what we were talking about earlier, what is a mistake that you wouldn't do next year in the 4x4? I'm gonna and all the nice things I said about Danny, I'm gonna roast him right here. He ran with me on Saturday at 10 o'clock, and he's not a runner. So the run 4 miles, he's an athlete, but 4 miles for someone who's not training to run 4 miles.
Still 4 miles.
Yeah,
Still 4 miles.
it's tough. And he did it with me, and we ran at like a 9-minute pace, and he wasn't struggling. He was just kind of cruising, but he made the suggestion to get McDonald's.
Oh, no. Oh, no.
Yeah, and I never eat McDonald's, but I was like, I've burned so many calories, and I was in such like a deficit because I didn't plan out the nutrition, and both of you guys touched on the nutrition, something that you should plan on. That was my big mistake, and then eating at McDonald's was the stupidest thing I could have possibly done. At 10, so I woke up at 2 a.m. on Sunday, which mentally is going to be the hardest was the hardest run for me because you're exhausted. It's another 2 a.m. for me. And then I woke up with, chock full of McDonald's. I was like, okay, so anyone running it next year, do not eat McDonald's in the middle of your run, please.
Dude, Brian, I actually had Burger King. Now you just jogged my memory. I had a couple burgers from Burger King, similar week moment, and that was actually something I left out was the acidic thing. I said I don't really remember.
Yeah.
It was that. So I had it after maybe the 11 a.m. No, it would have been after the 3 p.m. So that 7 p.m. that I did with Yoga Steve, I was feeling it because of those couple hamburgers in my gut. So I'm gonna double fold that and just amplify that all the more. That's too funny.
2 of the
Wow.
3 people that did this ate fast food and would highly suggest waiting until the end to eat it.
Don't do it.
Celebrate afterwards. Yeah.
It was a weak moment.
It was I was like I never eat it, but I'm like, you know what? I just got to eat something here, and it was 10 at night, and I wasn't about to make food. But anyway, so this is I kind of told Danny about this idea a couple days ago. I just said I want to talk to you about something, and that's all I said. So if he's listening to this, Danny, this is what I was talking about. So he's never been to Buffalo. He's from California, and a couple years ago, I did this event. I made it, and I planned on making it an annual event, but I moved the next year. So there you go. And then the next year, I think I was in Switzerland, actually. And then this year, obviously, COVID was going on. But I'd like to start this again next year. I call it the running of the Bills. Like the running of the Bulls. It's a play on words. But what I did is I strapped a GoPro to my chest, and I ran. At that time, I think it was 14 miles from North Buffalo to the stadium on game day. And it was freaking awesome. Me and my buddy did it. And I don't know.
Go to the game?
I actually had to work, so I ran all the way there.
You just ran to the stadium, and then how'd you get home?
An Uber. I took an Uber.
Jeez, savage. What a
But
dedicated
that
man.
would be better if you went to the game.
So this is my
Doing that this year.
This is my proposal. I think it would be really cool to do this for fundraising. And I think it would be cool to like make this a fun event. I'm thinking, because I lived on Hurdle, North Buffalo, and that's where I started. Basically the corner of Delaware and Hurdle, like right where that it used to be a Kmart. I haven't been home in a bit, so I don't know if it's still there or whatever. But there's a big parking lot there, so we could park our cars there. And the route that I planned out is safe. It's all sidewalk. It basically is down Delaware to Niagara Square. And then you run behind, run behind the arena. And then I think is it South Park? And then you just take South Park, basically all the way to the stadium at that
Yeah,
point.
you're running the turkey trot 3 times.
Yeah, there you go. That's basically it. Yeah. And it was cool because like, and I didn't, not that I'm some, viral sensation, but now I have like a YouTube channel and a platform that, people enjoy, interacting with. At the time, I didn't really have that, and everyone was super excited. And I Facebook Lived it, and I was bouncing all over the place. The quality was crappy, but people still really enjoyed it. And I was like, I could grow this on a yearly basis. People love the Bills. Opening day, there's an electricity about it. And then doing something like this, like the 4x48 challenge, like all these things, start flying around in my head. So this was my idea. Is I wanted to invite Danny to come do it with me because he's never been to Buffalo. And I thought, what a cool experience it would be to, instead of training for a marathon or, training for some kind of half marathon or whatever, training for that run and then, having it manifest into a tailgate for a Bills game and then going to the home opener for the Bills game. So I
That's
thought,
awesome.
I don't know. That's my
I'm all
thought.
in.
The question
I'm
is,
all
when
in.
you get there, are you going to jump on top of a table as like the finish? line? Just saying.
I think that is definitely something that I would have to do for sure. My
That's
fiance
awesome.
put the kibosh on me jumping through a table in our parking lot for the playoffs. So
Yeah.
I need some.
That's
I
a
need
pretty
to
good
make up
idea.
for that. Yeah.
You know what? I was thinking, BG. First of all, I'm in, man. That's awesome. Kudos. And I don't want to bastardize it, but what if we make it as 17 miles for Josh Allen? Again, 14's cool. It doesn't matter the number. I'm just being funny here, being creative. But
No.
I know
So
Josh Allen's our guy. So
no. So do you want to hear this? I did it. My first year I did it. It was 14 miles. But that happened to be the year that the Bills made the playoffs for the first time in 17 years. So
Oh.
then on January 2nd, I think it was, or January 3rd, whenever their playoff game was,
yeah.
we ran it again for good luck, but we made it a 17-mile loop because of the 17-year playoff drought. So
Yeah.
basically all we did was add the loop in Delaware Park, and that made it 17 miles. So I have a route for that too. Yeah.
Look at that, dude.
Yeah.
Kudos, man. Certainly beats the hell out of being there. I was in Jacksonville, and that was a horrible game.
Oh,
It was great to break. It was great to break the streak, though. But dude, kudos, man. That's awesome. I'm in. I
was
love
in
it.
Houston for last year's playoff loss, so again, that's something too.
My mind goes to what we're all wearing.
See? Okay. So this is where I was thinking, like, maybe, because I'm thinking something like this might be cool. Like, now that Dell, I'm sure you guys have had some kind of interactions with him too. But
I know
like,
Dell.
If, like, because he always makes, like, a Bills shirt around the home opener. Like, what if we, all supported him by wearing the same, like 26 shirts for the run or something like that. I thought that might be
we could
kinda
even
cool.
do a custom one, maybe.
Yeah.
We work with him and pick a charity or a couple, whatever, and we do a custom shirt for this run.
I love
Run
that.
on
So
the
do you
Bills,
see?
baby.
Do you see how this kind of like is manifesting? Like I knew you guys would
In.
I don't know many runners. I really don't. Or like I know runners, but not people that would do weird stuff like this. So
It's just a great run commute. That's all it is. It's a run commute to the Bills Stadium. I
that's
love
right.
Can you imagine though? Like that is such a cool story too. Like we got to get tickets. Maybe we even get set up, in the Jim Kelly or something. No, whatever
Well,
it is.
The co-founder from November Project, Brogan, he does wild things like that where he used to live in San Diego. He would run to the airport and then go on his flight. And then if he came back the same day, and he would just run commute to the airport. Or he's also done a half marathon on a layover at like an international airport and like leave and then go run like a half marathon and come back in, which is awesome and fun to do. And it reminds me of this. It would be such a cool thing to have unique to Buffalo of something that nobody's doing. I love running anything that doesn't have the typical 5K, 10K, half marathon where people can get in their heads.
Yeah.
If it's 17 miles or 14 miles, it's perfect because there's no course record. There's anything. You just go out and have fun with your friends. You're high-fiving. We got footballs in our hands, whatever. You're playing the shout song, hearing speakers, going downfield. It's all good.
So what I'm envisioning,
That's Yogi Steve's thing too.
Well,
Oh,
what
go
I'm
ahead.
envisioning is, okay, so I've just learned how to do video editing and all this stuff, for my YouTube stuff.
Fun stuff.
And it is fun and frustrating at the same time. It's like, why can't it just
Yeah,
freaking do this? I don't know. Yeah.
There was some sarcasm in that. Yeah.
But my fiance got me a GoPro like that year, so it was the GoPro 4. So they're up to the GoPro 9, I think now, which
crap.
yeah. So I literally just bought a new GoPro, but I started screwing around with it recently to record my runs and just different kinds of stuff. Well, when I pulled out the GoPro 4, I forgot that I actually recorded the running of the Bills, the original one. So now that I know how to video edit, I'm going to put together the original running of the Bills so people have so you can experience. I'm telling you, it was so cool when you got down South Park it turns into, geez, I've been away from Buffalo for the street that goes like right in front of the stadium. As you start getting
there. Yeah.
Mile strips in there. Yeah. Southwestern.
You know what? I'm embarrassed.
Southwestern
I
or
forgot
mile
the name of
strip.
it. Well, either way, the way I came into the stadium, it's just all of a sudden there's more and more people tailgating, and my buddy who ran it with me, Looper, shout out to Looper. He dressed up like he was actually running of the Bulls, but he had like so he had all white on, he hit a Bills
the red bandana thing.
Yep,
yeah?
exactly, but it was a Bills bandana. Yeah, and
dude.
so he was dressed like that, and like it was just weird to see a guy with a GoPro and that guy running towards the stadium, and we were high-fiving everybody, and people were like, and on the GoPro, you actually saw me running into people that I knew, like high-fiving them as I ran by, and they're like, keep going, don't stop, and just imagining just a swarm of people coming in, but having it be for charity and having it be just a unique event to Buffalo.
Great idea.
I think it would be something
Law
really
of attraction.
cool. That's
Law
right.
of attraction,
That's
baby.
exactly right.
Manifest.
It selfishly, it gives me a reason to come home too, right?
I used to be
Love
one of
to have you back.
those people that I would be mad if somebody had a good idea. I'm not anymore, and I'm it's a great idea, and I'm really impressed with it. So I would be down.
Well, I want you to be a part of
Steve.
it. This is honestly, this is the first time I've ever talked about this out loud to anyone other than my fiance, who's sick of hearing about it. So
We're in. I'm in.
I would
in.
love for you to be a part of this, and we can, obviously we'll connect in the months to come once the schedule comes out and gets, but just start like the 17 idea and what shirts to wear and all that kind of stuff. Like, we could really knock this out of the park, and Buffalo's the kind of place where we can really do some damage on the good side of things for a charity, and just make it a super fun event.
Yeah.
I was just gonna say something funny. Maybe it's in conclusion. I'm not sure where we're at with time with the show, but you're sitting with the world record holder of most times playing the shout song, which is our boy Yoga Steve there with his November project. And if you catch his media, I'm kidding. I'm being funny, but Yoga's. I played a lot, but Yoga Steve is a diehard shout song fan. So I kicked off our 4x4x48 on my phone. I was gonna bring my speaker, I didn't, but I did it because I know Yoga Steve how much he loves it. I mean, we all as Bills diehards, we love it, but Yoga Steve, I think, it might have us a little bit on that too. So with how much he's played it for November Project Buffalo.
Well, the Bills are so good at making hype videos and those like montages, and I saved one that I watched like just randomly to just get myself hyped up when I miss Buffalo. But the one is when we hired McDermott, and it's just basically like the expectations, like what Buffalo's like, and there's a clip of November Project at the steps of the Albright Knox, doing the shout song.
Stevie.
Yeah, I get chills just when you say that. I feel that through my whole entire body. I remember when they came and the guy showed up with the camera, and I was like, "This guy's from the Bills," and everybody's like,
Let's go.
And it was a special moment for us that they considered us enough to be a community, a positive example in the community to take the time and make that video and include us in it. And I was super thankful that was there and we were included in it. And yeah, I mean, the shout song, it's actually a year now ago today where during the pandemic, we had November Project got canceled. We just had to postpone it because of the pandemic. And I went up on my roof and started still doing the shout song. And I did it for about 73 days straight in the morning. I think it's a year ago today. And every day I just went up and went on Instagram Live and just played the shout song. We did jumping jacks and squats and a little bit of dance party. And we did it for 73 days straight. And we always end November Project Buffalo with the shout song. It's a little different now because we have to be social distance, but we still end every November Project. So when the Bills went on the run this year, I was like, this was the year, we were supposed to be in person and this is what we've been building for. So I'm going to be very happy as things start to hopefully get into normal where we can get a little closer and, this would be perfect for it. And I know there would be people within the November Project community and the other running communities that would love to be part of this in whatever capacity, and we could organize that together. I'd be honored to be proud of it and to be part of it.
Well, this is I think this is a great spot to end. I'm really happy that you guys were both into that idea because
100%.
I think I just have a vision for how successful it can be, especially with two super motivating guys like you and kind of the same wavelength. Anyone who does this 4x4x48, it says a lot about your character.
Can I say one more thing, Brian?
Right back at
For
you.
sure. I always like to at the end just say, because this wasn't scripted. I don't have questions. This is the first time I've ever actually talked to either of you. So I always like to end with anything we didn't cover, any last words or anything you'd like to put out in the ethos. Go ahead. So yeah, Steve, go ahead, man.
Oh, it's just one thing of what I'm learning as I get older is the power of men sharing generously. And also, if you can tell through this conversation, none of us are competing with one another. We're actually just collaborating and sharing amongst men. And that's something that the world needs more of. I know that I used to be an uber competitive person that I didn't want to see anybody succeed over me. And, I've forced to change my ways if I want to be able to coexist and collaborate with others. And I'm just appreciative of these types of conversations. And I just feel that with John was saying the video messages, reaching out to people, you sharing your story about your father, I have a story about my father, John has his stories. And the more that we share those types of stories amongst one another, the more us as men can connect with one another and drop that veil of uber competitiveness or trying to take other people out. And
Me, it's more of even the way that this is set up on the screen here, it's like a Venn diagram. You know what I mean? We have all these different things that we do, but what's the common thing that's brought us together is running, and this is, I think, right. Let's find more commonalities in each other as opposed to, oh, you did the 44, you did the challenge. I did it better, that's no way to be. Yeah.
Hey, I'm not saying that it still doesn't creep up. I'm not saying that it's still not there, but at least I noticed it.
That's
I think
right.
that's the other
That's right.
thing, is
Yeah.
that it may never go away. You just get way better at handling it.
You just learn to deal with it. That's right. That's right. I shake someone's hand at the end of a race, oh, nice race. And I walk away going, how did this son of a bitch beat me? All right, Johnny Osmosis. Go ahead, brother.
Yeah. Well, echoing Steve's gratitude and having us and even just I love that too, that flavor of men connecting with one another and being vulnerable. And that's kind of what I wanted to share it's interesting because I think there may be a lot of, with being intentional in my words, I should say here, vulnerability actually is the sign of someone who is actually incredibly courageous, incredibly brave. When in a lot of times, I think it's shown that if you disrobe, if you are candid, if you are, vulnerable, that you are weak, and it's actually just the opposite. So there's great power And there's an attraction, an activation of sorts that happens with energy when you are willing to share your inadequacies. Look at yourself nakedly in the mirror, as Tom Bilyeu says, Quest Nutrition, co-founder. There's some great power to that because we're all human. We all put our pants on the same way, or whatever phrase you want to put in there. And I think that, us banding together, the three of us, and sharing our stories and our humanness will allow for others to see that it's okay to do the same. And they're doing that. They will then activate things in their life that they probably didn't think were possible. The energies, the opportunities, the law of attraction type stuff. So I would just say, be more human, be more vulnerable, be courageous. And as I always like to say, baby, keep going. Let's go. So my gratitude again, BG, you're the man.
Well, gentlemen, it's really been a pleasure. I'm going to ask you to stay on for 2 seconds. I'm going to end the stream here, but
Sure.
I
Thanks,
really
everybody.
Yeah, appreciate everyone who listened, and we'll see you for the next episode. Have a great one.
Yeah.